For the longest time, adult animated series never really had a seat at the big animation table. I mean, they still existed, but if you were a grown-up watching cartoons, people looked at you like you just told them you put milk in before the cereal. You see, back in the day, animation was for the kids. That was the law, or at least that's how it felt. But in 2025, there are probably more adults watching animated shows than kids. Maybe that's a fact. Maybe it's just something I made up to prove a point. You decide. Either way, times have changed. And it wasn't always this way. Because if you rewind to the 90s, and oh yes, I'm talking about that magical era of VHS tapes, being an adult cartoon fan was like having a secret double life. But somewhere along the way, two shows came in, and not only did they break the cartoons are just for kids myth, they built a whole empire. And then, just as quickly they started to crumble. This is the crazy rise and sudden fall of the House of Drawings. Let's get into it. To understand the House of Drawings, you've got to meet the two giants that built the adult animation playground in the first place. First up, we have The Simpsons. The year was 1989, and America fell in love with a yellow cartoon family that somehow felt more real than most sitcoms. It was light, funny, and a little bit rebellious, but still safe enough for you to watch with your mom without her clutching the remote. It proved cartoons could be for everyone, but they were still walking on a leash, and then, in 1997, the leash snapped. Now we had South Park. It all started with a tiny, weird little short film called The Spirit of Christmas. Before long, South Park wasn't just a cartoon, it was a cultural earthquake. It was crude, it was offensive, it was genius. And whether you loved it or hated it, TV was never going to be the same again. So, by the early 2000s, South Park had kicked the door open for risky animated shows. And that's when two writers, Matt Silverstein and Dave Jeezer, decided to walk through. Their big idea was to take the drama and ridiculousness of reality TV, you know, the people trapped in a house format from shows like Big Brother and The Real World, and mix it with a house full of cartoon characters who definitely should not be living together.
You know what a real premise would be if we actually took 8 different cartoon characters, stuck them in a house in front of 1 million cameras, and had their lives taped? That would be something.
But these weren't just any cartoon characters. They were parodies, versions of famous animated archetypes: the princess, the superhero, the video game fighter, the black and white 1930s cartoon, all crammed under one roof. And just like reality TV, it was all about the fights, the gossip, the alliances, except here, they could also explode, swear, and insult each other in ways no live-action human ever could. They wanted satire that punched every direction possible. Nothing was off limits. When they pitched the pilot to Comedy Central, it was one of those, you're either going to love this or fire me for suggesting it moments, and somehow, Comedy Central said yes, yes with a nervous laugh and a tiny safety net. Season 1 would get only 7 episodes, just enough to see if people would laugh or send angry letters. You can't have a reality show without a cast of big personalities. And Drawn Together didn't just give us characters, it gave us parodies so shameless, you could practically hear the copyright lawyers breathing into paper bags. First up, we had Xandir. He's basically Link from The Legend of Zelda if Link never actually saved the princess and instead spent most of his time exploring his sexuality. Let's just say his hero's quest was a little more personal.
You used to tell me I was pretty.
No, I didn't.
You used to dress up for me.
Just that one time.
Oh, forget it. I hope you enjoy the couch.
But Xander!
I said couch!
Then there's Princess Clara. Imagine every wholesome Disney princess. Now give her outdated worldviews and just a sprinkle of casual racism. She's the one who sings about dreams coming true. Captain Hero, the Superman parody. This guy is insecure, petty, and spends half his time using his powers for extremely questionable activities. Then there was Toot Braunstein. Think Betty Boop, but she's past her prime, bitter about it, and armed with enough sarcasm to power a small city. She's the human embodiment of back in my day.
What the? Oh my god.
Ling Ling was basically if Pikachu had anger management issues, spoke a fake anime language, and could wipe out the entire house if you got on his bad side. Then Waldorf Sockbat was a mashup of every wacky, hyperactive cartoon sidekick from the 90s. And finally, Foxy Love, a mystery-solving, music-making character inspired by Josie and the Pussycats, except she's fully aware she's in an adult cartoon and uses it to her advantage. The beauty of the parody was that they could take these inspired versions, push them to extremes, and never actually have to pay Nintendo, Disney, or DC a dime. Drawn Together wasn't just another adult cartoon, it was genuinely weird. The kind of weird where you'd watch an episode and think, oh, should I be laughing? Or calling someone? It was absolutely morally questionable, but that's exactly what made it stand out. This split the audience into two camps. On one side, you had people who loved the shock value, the "I can't believe they said that" crowd. On the other, people who watched 5 minutes, clutched their pearls, and swore they'd never touch the remote again. They did episodes on racism, stem cell research, religious fanaticism, topics that would make most networks sweat bullets. And they did it with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The intent was satire, to take big issues, exaggerate them to absurdity, and make you laugh while making you uncomfortable. But you know, satire only works if you know it's satire, and a lot of people didn't. Some took the offensive jokes at face value, thinking the show agreed with the horrible things the characters said, when in reality the whole point was to make fun of those horrible ideas. In the beginning, Season 1, Drawn Together, really stuck to its big idea, a reality show with cartoon characters. We got the diary room confessions, the petty arguments, the silly challenges. It actually felt like Big Brother, just animated and way ruder. Even before the show aired, it got backlash over its ads. Comedy Central ran posters that were, let's just say, very sexualized. Parent groups lost it. Letters were written, phone calls were made, and that was before anyone even saw an episode. Then came the actual show. The over-the-top racism and the wild political swings, so this offended just about everyone at some point. Parent advocacy groups called it harmful to children. Which was weird because who's letting their kids watch this at 10:30 at night? The network also got nervous. Episodes went through heavy censorship, jokes cut, scenes blurred, words bleeped, which of course made fans want the uncensored versions even more. When the DVDs came out without the bleeps, they sold well because people wanted to see the real show Comedy Central wouldn't air. But the bigger problem was the advertisers. A lot of brands refused to have their commercials anywhere near Drawn Together, and as you may know, no advertisers meant less money. And for the network, a show that doesn't make money, no matter how passionate its fan base, is a problem. So by 2007, the writing was on the wall, and not in the funny animated way. Now, making Drawn Together was expensive. It used full traditional animation, not the cheaper cutout style other shows used, and the cast was big. More characters meant more voice work, more art, and more money. Now combine that with the fact that advertisers wanted nothing to do with the show, and you've got a recipe for financial trouble. And the weirdest part was that the creators didn't even hear about the cancellation directly from Comedy Central. They literally found out through voice actress Tara Strong, who casually mentioned that the network had decided not to bring the show back. That is the most awkward way to receive some news. After that, Matt Silverstein and Dave Jazzer just lost steam. The motivation was gone, and they decided to end it abruptly in 2007. No big final season, no epic goodbye episode. Even after the show was gone, the creators weren't ready to let it die completely. In 2010, they tried to bring it back, not with a new season, but with a full-length film, Drawn Together Movie, The Movie, catchy title, right? But there was just one tiny microscopic problem, the budget. The entire movie was made for about $1 million. To put that in perspective, that was less than what it cost to make a single episode of the show. Which means the animation, yeah, it looked rough. Fans who loved the show's chaotic charm felt like the movie missed the mark completely. Instead of a glorious comeback, it felt like a cheap afterthought. The creators later admitted they'd made mistakes, but also couldn't resist pointing out that South Park always seemed to get Comedy Central's favoritism, budget, and freedom. Whether that's true or just sour grapes, well, we'll let you decide. For some fans, Drawn Together is a nostalgic treasure. Of course, for others, it's just that offensive cartoon that went too far, but even that is part of its legacy. Drawn Together proved that animation could be just as wild, raw, and unfiltered as live-action comedy, sometimes even more so. So, what do you think? Was Drawn Together a misunderstood masterpiece of satire? Or just a hot mess that went too far? Drop your thoughts and your favorite outrageous moment down in the comments. That's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe. See you next time.